In fiction, there exist universes where humanity is not just doomed, but was never meant to stand a chance. These are not merely dystopian or violent worlds. They are realities where existence itself is a curse, and death is not always the worst possible fate. In these nightmarish landscapes, suffering is constant, survival is fleeting, and the very fabric of reality twists in ways that defy comprehension. Whether ruled by malevolent entities, trapped in endless cycles of despair, or consumed by forces beyond human understanding, these worlds embody the purest essence of darkness. Today, we will explore some of the most terrifying and merciless universes ever conceived. Are you ready to step into the abyss? Imagine dying. Your body is torn apart in an accident, a bullet pierces your skull, or you simply find yourself in the wrong place at the worst possible time. But instead of fading into nothingness or finding peace in the afterlife, you wake up in a room surrounded by strangers. In the center, a black sphere watches you in silence. Welcome to Gantz. Here, death does not mean the end. It is merely the beginning of a far worse nightmare. Those who perish in violent circumstances are recruited by this mysterious entity to participate in a survival game where there are no second chances. Their mission: hunt down and exterminate terrifying entities hidden on Earth. Their reward: the possibility of reclaiming their life, if they manage to survive long enough. The rules are simple and cruel. Once inside the room, Gantz provides players with a black suit that enhances their strength and endurance, advanced weaponry, and a target they must eliminate before time runs out. It may sound straightforward, but reality is far different. Each enemy is deadlier than the last, missions grow increasingly impossible, and most players do not survive their first encounter. There is no explanation as to who controls Gantz, why these aliens exist, or what happens if someone actually wins. The extraterrestrials that players must hunt are grotesque aberrations beyond classification. Some are colossal living statues. Others resemble humans but conceal monstrous abilities. One example is the Buddha alien, an eerily serene statue that remains motionless until the game begins. Then, it moves with inhuman speed, crushing players with overwhelming force. Many have died believing it to be harmless. On the other hand, the Tanaka alien appears as a bizarre creature with the face of a smiling old man and erratic behavior. However, once attacked, it transforms into an unstoppable killing machine, regenerating instantly and slaughtering with terrifying brutality. But the true horror of Gantz doesn't lie solely in its enemies. It lies in the system itself. There is no escape. If a player tries to flee or disobey the Black Sphere's orders, their head explodes instantly. The game operates on a point system. Each defeated enemy grants points, and if a player survives long enough to accumulate 100 points, they are given 3 choices: be released and regain their life in the real world, revive a fallen teammate, or receive more powerful weapons to continue fighting. But there is a catch. Even if someone is freed, sooner or later, they may die in the real world and be dragged back into Gantz, trapped once again in this endless nightmare. Each mission is worse than the last. Veterans who have survived long enough know it is only a matter of time before Gantz sends them into an unwinnable battle. No one knows the true purpose of the game, nor who is behind it. They only know that even if they manage to escape, they will never truly be free. In Gantz, death is just a number, life is an illusion, and despair is the only constant. There are no heroes here, only temporary survivors in a game with no end. Space is terrifying on its own. It is an absolute void, a place where life should not exist, where darkness is eternal, and where any attempt at exploration can mean death. But in Iron Lung, what lurks in the depths of certain planets is far worse than the infinite cosmic abyss. After a cataclysmic event known as the Silent Rapture, humanity was pushed to the brink of extinction. Without warning, all stars and habitable planets vanished without a trace. In a single instant, millions of worlds disappeared, taking entire civilizations with them, and leaving only a handful of survivors trapped in decaying space stations and drifting ships. With no planets left to inhabit and no resources to sustain them, the future of humankind seemed to be reduced to a slow, miserable demise in the cold emptiness of space. But in their desperation, they found something. Something that made no sense. Dead planets, void of atmosphere, continents or mountains. Just vast oceans of a thick, dark liquid. When analyzed, the result was chilling. It was human blood. No one knows how this is possible. No one can explain what it means. But when the rest of the universe has vanished, even an ocean of blood becomes an opportunity. The few remaining organized forces made a decision. They would explore these oceans in search of answers. Improvised submarines were built. Old escape pods modified to withstand the crushing abyssal pressures. However, resources were so scarce that these vehicles were fragile, lacking any windows or external viewing mechanisms. The only way to navigate was through an old black and white monitor and a rudimentary coordinate system. One of these submarines, known as the Iron Lung, was deployed into the depths of one of these blood oceans. Inside, a single pilot, unarmed, with no way to communicate with the outside world, and without even knowing what he was looking for. His only mission was to descend into the deepest zones and capture photographs of specific locations. But as he descended, something became evident. Something else was in that ocean. Something was watching him. With every meter of descent, the submarine groaned under the immense pressure, the sounds of twisting metal echoing like muffled screams. Occasionally, the blood seemed to shift unnaturally, as if something enormous was swimming nearby. But without windows or any way to see outside, all he could do was keep moving forward. As he advanced, the photos he captured began revealing things that should not have been there. Silhouettes of impossible structures, colossal shadows lurking within the thick red haze, grotesque figures that seemed to shift between each flash of the camera. Then, the submarine's sensors began detecting movement. Something was following the vessel. There is no escape at the bottom of the ocean, no shelter, no rescue, just one terrifying certainty. At some point, the lone pilot would no longer be alone in that metal coffin. Perhaps he never was. But the most haunting question of all remains unanswered. If the universe vanished without a trace, if all planets and stars were erased from existence, if humanity has been reduced to a handful of desperate survivors and dying ships, where did all that blood come from? The world of Mandela Catalogue is identical to ours. Same cities, same technologies, same daily routines. People wake up, go to work, return home, and live their lives as if nothing were out of the ordinary. But it's all an illusion. Something lurks in the shadows, something that has always been there, yet most people don't even realize it exists. These are the alternates, entities of unknown origin that have been infiltrating society for generations. They are not aliens, not demons, not ghosts. They are something worse. They don't need armies to invade Earth, nor do they launch direct attacks on humanity. They don't have to. Their method of destruction is far more subtle and terrifying. Alternates don't attack physically. They break their victims psychologically. They manipulate perception, warping reality, until their targets spiral into absolute despair. Fear, paranoia, and confusion are their weapons. They push people to the edge, making them question what they see, what they hear, until they no longer trust their own senses. Eventually, their minds collapse under the weight of terror, driving them to take their own lives. But if fear alone isn't enough, the alternates can do something even worse. They can replace their victims entirely. They mimic them with perfect accuracy, replicating voices, movements, even memories. Someone could vanish in the middle of the night, and by morning, an entity that looks, sounds, and acts just like them has taken their place, and no one would ever know the difference. The true horror of Mandela Catalogue is that no one knows just how deeply these creatures have infiltrated society. How many people walking among us are still human? How many governments, corporations, and world leaders have already been replaced? The most disturbing part? The government knows about them, but instead of fighting back, they have chosen to ignore the problem. There are no warnings, no defense protocols, no security measures. Emergency responders have direct orders to avoid any situation involving an alternate. If someone calls 911 because they see an inhuman figure in their home, the only response they will hear is, avoid the area and wait for the incident to resolve itself. Because deep down, everyone understands the truth. This is a war that cannot be won. You cannot fight something you cannot understand. You cannot defeat an enemy that never shows its true face. And by the time you realize the truth, that anyone around you could be something else, it's already too late. Mandela Catalogue is a chilling reminder that the true horror is not what lurks in the darkness, but what smiles at us and speaks as if everything is fine. If you thought the other universes were bad, wait until you see Cruelty Squad. Here, humanity has reached a point where death no longer matters, not because technology has advanced to preserve life, but because it has become just another service in the marketplace. If you die, a corporation simply rebuilds your body, installs artificial organs, or pumps you full of synthetic chemicals to send you back to work, as long as you can afford it. This is not a utopian future of technological progress. There is no equality, no enlightenment, only pure, unchecked decay. The economy and biotechnology have fused into a grotesque abomination, warping humanity beyond recognition. Megacorporations control everything, stripping morality down to its most basic function: transactions. Everything can be bought, sold, or manipulated, even the right to exist. Death is no longer the end, just a minor inconvenience. People are ripped apart in the streets, gunned down in broad daylight, or jumped from buildings, only to wake up minutes later in a regeneration tank, with a bill waiting for them when they step out. Violence has lost all meaning because it has become just another economic function. Companies hire mercenaries to eliminate competitors. Disposable employees are recycled without question, and the police, they're just another corporate entity in the power chain. You are a contract killer, a disposable pawn for Cruelty Squad, a conglomerate specializing in corporate assassinations. There are no heroic missions, no noble causes, just a job. You receive a target, eliminate them, get paid, and move on. Each job is more absurd, grotesque, and depraved than the last. Sometimes you're sent to take out a rival executive. Other times, you're tasked with retrieving organs from inactive employees. Occasionally, you're not even told why you're killing someone. You just do it. The world itself is a reflection of this corruption. Everything looks diseased, with garish colors and distorted textures, as if reality itself has rotted from the inside out. The architecture is chaotic. The streets feel like a maze designed to disorient you, and the people you meet, they look wrong, faces stretched unnaturally, flesh twisted by cheap cybernetic implants. This is a world that has long since abandoned any attempt at coherence. But the worst part, there is no escape. There is no revolution, no saviors, no resistance. The system has already won. You can try to run, reject the jobs, hide in the city's darkest alleys, but hypercapitalism always finds a way. In the end, you are nothing more than another expendable cog in a machine too large to resist. In Cruelty Squad, the only certainty is that life has a price. And if you can't afford it, someone else will be more than happy to collect whatever's left of you. What makes these universes truly terrifying isn't just the monsters, the suffering, or the inescapable doom. It's how trapped you are in them. In Gantz, you don't just die, you're forced into an endless cycle of brutal survival with no real answers. Iron Lung drops you into an ocean of blood with no way out, no one to hear you scream, and no idea what's lurking beneath. Mandela Catalogue doesn't need gore or destruction. It turns the people around you into something else, and by the time you realize it, it's too late. And Cruelty Squad? That's a world where you're nothing but a disposable product, and the only thing that matters is whether or not you can pay to stay alive. But if you think this was bad, we've only scratched the surface. There are plenty more universes out there that are just as dark, maybe even worse. Maybe ones where time loops forever, where the laws of reality twist against you, where suffering isn't just expected, it's the point. So tell me, which universe should we explore next? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into fiction's darkest corners, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because if there's one thing we've learned today, there's always something worse.